Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 232. Now, we have got a great guest with us joining us today, who I will introduce you to in a minute. First of all, I'll just touch base with Mr. Peter Lant, who is fully adorned in walk bath and Solvitor ambulando merchandise, and he's wrapped up warm. He's even wearing a snood or a snood indoors. I think
check this out. Even that has got
even his snood or his snood is branded as well, so that's great. How are you doing, Pete? You okay?
Yeah, I'm very well. This stuff keeps you warm, I'll tell you. It's great. I love it.
Excellent. Yeah, I recommend it. As I said, I just got back from the gym and I came in. I've got like an outdoor sort of office in the garden, and I normally put the heating on about half an hour before I come in, and it's nice and warm. But I didn't have a chance to do that, so it's fairly cold in here today. But it's warming up by the minute. But what we want to do first of all is I've got to give a little readout of a review we've received on Apple Podcasts, which I say every week. That's where we're trying to get reviews, if possible, that helps us gain more followers and listeners or watchers on YouTube. And this one is great because it's from a first-time listener. So it says episode 223 for women of a certain age. I think that was the title. I can't see the full title, but it's from Jenny C 1968. So I presume Jenny C was born in 1968. That's her username. And the review is as follows. First time listener to the show, and what a great episode. Very relevant as a woman new to menopause and HRT. Some interesting perspectives on a wide range of lifestyle factors such as alcohol and sleep. The protein tracking information was particularly useful. Thanks for a great show. So thank you, Jenny, for your review. If you go on to either Facebook or Instagram, wherever you kind of find us, and ping us a message and let us know your postal address. Also, you can go on and have a look on the Instagram on the merch store. We will send you out either a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a hoodie. Let us know which color, which size, and where to send it, and we will send that out to you. So thank you so much, Jenny. I'm really happy to have a first-time listener writing a review for us. So anyone else who's listening who wants to write a review, we will read it out live on air and send you out some free merchandise. Fantastic. So if you are listening on the day of release, and as I know many of you do, it's the 7th of February. So we've already had January. The first month of 2025 is out the way. And we're in the second month now. And we are welcoming our first guest of February 2025, Mr. Sean Cole, all the way from Portsmouth in England. How you doing, Sean? You okay?
I'm very good. How are you guys?
We are good. Yeah, we are kind of, can't believe it's February already. It's... yeah, the first month has flown by. But I was just thinking back, I think I've been aware of you for years and years. And I think I first maybe listened to a podcast that you did, and I'm probably going back more than 10 years now, maybe with Strength Matters. I think, you might have done a podcast with them. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That was a long time ago. Yeah, who was I speaking to on there again?
It'd be Seb and
Josh, was it?
And Josh, Seb and Josh. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
And that's where I first heard of you, and I think I probably followed you on social media after that. And then I hosted a certified functional strength coach course at my gym in Chelmsford for the Mike Boyle kind of system, wasn't it? And Kevin Carr came over and taught that, and I think yourself and Dan Reeves, is it Dan Reeves? Dan Reeves,
great coach.
Yeah, came and did that. So I met you in person. Again, that's got to be more than 10 years ago, actually. It's a long time ago. So I've been aware of you for a long time, but it's great that we get to have you on the podcast. So you are based in Portsmouth in England. and you've been well, we're going to find out about you, but you've been involved in the health and fitness industry for a long time. You now mentor other people within the industry. You're a gym or a club owner, and also recently I know you've opened Balance Wellness Club as well, which we're going to talk about. So there's, like I said, we've got just under an hour to talk to you, and there's loads we could talk about. But I suppose first of all, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, about how you came to be in the fitness industry and your entry into it, and also your kind of training background? And I know you've got a military background as well. So yeah, kick off wherever you want, really, Sean, and we'll go from there.
Right, so I'm 51 years old, and I've been in the fitness industry since the age of about 24. But I kind of, I think a lot of people have, but I have actually trained since the age of about 12. I was a runner, gymnast, did all the stuff that we did as kids, but carried it on. I joined the military because I wanted to, I know this sounds bad, but I wanted to get away from home. And I think at 16, everybody wants to leave home and do something. And then when I got into the military, I found you could become a physical training instructor, which was somebody with a bit more passion, a bit more excitement in themselves, and somebody who had a lot about themselves could go and do. And I met the first PEI, and I thought, I can't do this because it's very, very difficult. That's what I thought in my head. But he convinced me otherwise. And at the age of 24, I went on a PT course. For the first up until the age of about 32, 33, I was a PTI. And I thought that screaming and shouting at people was the way to get things done. Just, rah, 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 round my head, keep going and all that. And it was great. But then at a kind of 33, 34, I went down the exercise rehab route. So I became an exercise rehabilitation instructor in the military, which was less shouting, more connection, more results, and a better sense of achievement for me, because I was dealing with people and helping them get fixed from injuries, from simple things like a knee problem from a rugby game to guys who'd been to Afghan, Iraq, lost a limb, right? So those guys may come in, all sorts of different ways. And you'd work in a triage clinic with a physio, the doctor, and myself, and we would get these guys back on track. So it was a really rewarding job. Then at 40, my time was done, 23 and a half years in the Navy. Man and boy, I sound like Uncle Albert. But I got that out the way, and I decided I was going to open a gym. And I think that's when we kind of first met, because my gym was based around a lot of kettlebells, because I love the strong first stuff. A lot of powerlifting, weightlifting style things. And it was great. We had jerk blocks in the gym. We had wooden platforms, but no money, because nobody in any way of any stretch of imagination is going to pay the money required to run a gym when it is just fixed around strength sports and athlete preparation. You might get a few, and we did have a few. So 2 years into that, I realized I'd got it wrong from a business perspective, because I didn't know how to run a business. Met Thomas Plummer and JC who owned W10 at the time, and they transformed my business for me. They helped me understand that the more money you can earn in business, which everybody's scared of as a PT, the more people you can help. Once I got that mindset issue fixed, I realized I could help more people if I earn more money. I started to transform my gym into a small group personal training facility, which it is today. And we've just evolved it. And because of the evolved structure of it and the mistakes I've made in growing that business, I went on to get mentored again by another company, because JC stopped doing it. They offered me a role within that company because of the mistakes I'd made and the stuff I was putting out. They understood I actually knew what was going to happen to other people's businesses by seeing their errors coming up that I'd already done. So I work for them now. And it's a great rewarding job with Fitness Business Profits. Great company. They helped me transform my business again, and I'm helping other gym owners. And then quite recently, 8 weeks ago, I opened a contrast therapy place. So cold, plunge and sauna, which is something I've been doing myself for about 3 years. And I thought I'd open a business doing it. So that's me in my entirety. I don't think there's anything I've missed out.
Okay, that's excellent. So JC, is it John Claude Vackerson, isn't it? Is that because I met him at at an event somewhere before, I think. And Thomas Plummer,
Yeah.
obviously, we actually, I think I read a quote from Thomas Plummer a couple of weeks back, actually, Pete. I think I did. Yeah,
Can't
it was
remember.
one. Yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah.
You probably did.
But yeah, no, because I met Thomas. I think I was talking at Birmingham NEC at some kind of I can't remember what the event was called now, but I was there with Life Fitness doing something, and I was doing a presentation, and I think I was on before Thomas Plummer, and I probably had a dozen people in my room, and then Thomas Plummer came on stage, and literally I think they had to change lecture rooms because there was people queuing to get in. He was absolutely fantastic. No, that's great. And what's really interesting there, I suppose, is you said you came out of the military and you love training yourself, and you opened this gym and you kind of filled it with the stuff that you love and the kind of the stuff. But it's like a lot of people, I think a lot of trainers get into the fitness business because they love training, and they think that's going to kind of carry them through and be enough to their passion and their enthusiasm for training is just you're going to open your doors and you're going to have people queuing to come in. But like us, I presume we'll talk about it a little bit. The majority of the population, don't love training, and you need to make it as palatable and as welcoming and as inclusive and as yeah, just as nice and for them as possible, So yeah, because I think I must have met you then. I think thinking back, I think it was maybe within your first year of opening Vital Fitness when we met, going back then. So let's talk about the gym first before we get onto the contrast stuff, because I think that's kind of the contrast stuff is more recent, but I'm really interested in that as well. How, I mean, was the gym just surviving, or would it have not have survived if you carried on doing what you're doing? It must have been there was some kind of trigger that obviously made you go and get help when you realized things weren't going as you thought it was going to be. What was that?
It was purely well, no, it wasn't purely actually. It was financial and time.
Hmm.
So I've got one older son who's 24, so I had no young kids, and my son was about 16 at the time, and I was kind of like, I've got all this time and I can't do anything with it because I had no time because I was always in the gym. Sorry, and then financially, when you leave the military, you get a good pot of money and you have a pension, so you feel secure. So you feel like you don't really need money because you've already got it, but you've not got a lot. So when I realized I had no money, and then Thomas Plummer and JC said, the more money you get, the more people you can help. I started to think, well, I want to help more people. So I need to do something quite drastically. So because I had no money in the gym, but I needed to make it into a small group PT thing, I went and got a loan. And I was like, all right, well, you're just going to reinvest. So I got a 20 grand loan, and that 20 grand loan transformed my business overnight, because that 20 grand was easy to get back once you installed it. Take the passion out of training. You need to systemize what your business does. So I systemize things, and those systems are still in play today, and they're just better and more refined. And once you systemize, somebody comes in, they get a great product still. Once they get a great product, they stay. And if they stay, you earn more money. And I know I keep talking about money, but most people are scared of talking about it in the fitness industry. But you go to a normal business and that's all they talk about. That's all it's all about data, not drama. So once I realized not to run the business on drama and thoughts, run it on the data that's in front of me, my business transformed.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you find, so what's great as well, you came out, well, I suppose, because a lot of people would come out of the military and go into sort of civilian fitness, and there's so many. We've got a guy that I'm training at the moment he's not recently, but he was in the Royal Marines for 10 years, and then he came out and he did his personal training qualification just almost because they would pay for him to do it. But he's an electrician now. But he says, oh, it's an easy thing for people to go into. They come out of the military, they go into fitness because it's what we do all day. It's something we can do. But I think a lot of them, they transfer the ethos, like you said, the shouty, I'm in charge, I'm telling you what to do, to the civilian kind of boot camp kind of thing. Whereas you'd already obviously had that transition going from training the regular recruits or the military personnel to then going into the rehab stuff, which you said was a lot more thoughtful, was a lot more connection, was a lot more individualized, was a lot softer, and it's rehab and things like that. So I suppose you're actually in a good. Did you find when you came out of the military and went from the rehab setting of the military to opening your own gym that you were already fairly well adapted and attuned to dealing with regular members of the public, or did that take you a little bit of acclimatization to as well?
I'm going to be honest that the rehab stuff, it does give you a little bit, but there's nothing that prepares a military person, in my opinion, from leaving to going into the civilian world. There's nothing. And it's not because, when you're in the military, you think, what do they call it? Institutionalized. You're not, to a degree. But you're in a bubble. And in that bubble of the military, everything is really systemized. It's relatively easy to stay within your role and stay within your lines. And there's people helping and there's people not helping. It's relatively easy. In the civilian world, it is, in my opinion, 10 times more difficult than being in the military. So when I come out, I wasn't prepared for how difficult it was going to be. And even though I had the rehab soft set skills I could use, I did think in my head, if I build it, they'll come, because I was an accredited S&C coach. I was a world powerlifting champion. I was a rehabber. I had all these things about me, but nobody cares about what I had. Now I know they care about what you can do for them. So I can lift a 250 deadlift, don't care. I'm overweight, help me. And once I realized that, then it started to become a little bit easier. But the rehab side, your question was, did it help me? Not really, because I still had that military mindset behind me.
Yeah, and I suppose it's like we had Helen Hall on a few weeks ago, who was the lady who that review was about, her episode, and she was a teacher, and I think she might have been a head teacher or an assistant head teacher in a school and things like that. And she talked about, I suppose there's kind of similarities there, whereby people have to be at school. You're there, you don't have an option. You're there, and I'm in front of you, and I'm going to teach you, and you're going to learn. And at the same way, I suppose, when you're in the military, people are there. They're there to train. They're there. They're paid effectively to be there. They haven't really got a choice to leave or not, within reason. Leave a session. I mean, whereas people in the public, they come in. If they don't like you, if you rub them up the wrong way, if you piss them off or do something wrong, or they get injured. It's a totally different skill set, isn't it? Trying to motivate people who don't have to be there, and effectively they're spending their hard-earned money to give to you, to give them a service. Sorry, Pete, you want to say something?
This is one of the things that goes. I mean, Sean's mentioned mindset, money, being in the military, echo chamber, and I see that in not even just in the military. You see it in the fitness industry. Once you're in the fitness industry, everything you see is to do with fitness on social media and all that. It all just starts to happen, doesn't it? So you're like, everyone's into this. So all I need to do, like you say, is open up a gym where you lift stuff, and I'll be beating them off with a stick or a club, an Indian club, because you use them in the Navy. But you know what I mean? So, and then be like, I'll get everyone will be into Indian clubs because we use them in the Navy, and I'll tell them that, and they'll think it's a great thing. And it's like, well, and like you said, the mindset thing is, no, people want to know about, they don't give a toss about you. Like you said, it's all about what can you do for me? So how did you, like you said, it happened instantly. You got like a 20 grand loan and it happened instantly. Because that is the other thing. It's swapping time for money, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which doesn't end well for anybody. Everybody burns out doing that. And that's why most people leave the industry, don't they?
Yeah.
So what, when you talk about systems and stuff like that, how did, I mean, obviously JC helped you with that and Thomas Plummer did and stuff like that, but how long did it take you to change that mindset? Was it like a switch, or did it happen over a protracted period of time of I've got to do this and I hate it, but eventually I know it's the right thing?
So in all honesty, I don't think it's changed to where I would like it to be. The thing about money and all of that, it's still kind of there in the background all the time. So what I've done now, I don't like sales. I'm not a fan, but you have to sell when you're in business. But I've been doing it for such a long time, and I thought I'm going to get used to it. I don't. So to systemize that, I employed a sales girl who is a savage on sales.
Yeah.
One thing I've found, and I hope this will go out somewhere, what I've found more recently, I'm feeling a bit shop worn. So when I'm on the shop floor, sometimes I still do that as well, even though I have, the staff. I'm getting a bit shop worn with the floor. So when I'm there now, that little bit that I used to have that I love being on the shop floor, that's starting to disappear as well now. I'm not as, I don't really want to go there as much and sit on the gym floor and go through it with people. So I call that fulfillment, looking after clients at a high level. So I have a coach, and she's come in. She's great. She is better at that side of the business than me. So she has that role and she really loves it. So instead of thinking, how can I overcome the stuff about money and sales, the stuff about being shop worn and not wanting to deal with as many people, you get the right people in place. They're A-game players, but you empower them to do the job that they're good at instead of telling them. So I put a framework. This is how we do sales. Here's a framework, but I want, there's good and there's better. So if you can think of a better way to do it than me, I want you to show me. So my staff all get that opportunity. And because of that, all the stuff I'm not very good at and don't like doing, I've started to farm out. Does that make sense?
I bloody love that. I'm doing something at the minute, which is exactly similar. And I'd hate the name of it, but the Peter principle is a thing in business, right? Where everyone gets promoted to the level of incompetence.
Yeah.
Because you get better at something, they go, well, you should do this. You should do this. And I think should is extrinsic. You should be this. And people will say, well, who says? Whereas if you say, I want to be this, they'll say why. And then you figure out why. And within all of that, I think, like, you know, you allow people to be who they are. You encourage them and challenge them to become who they want to be, but you don't force them to become something that they're not. And I think most business leaders like yourself will try and force yourself to be everything. And it just drains you out of everything, because you'll do all the stuff you're good at and the other stuff will just fall by the wayside, but you need the lot. Yeah. And that is brilliant. You find people who love it. Spreadsheets. Some people love doing spreadsheets and accounts and all that sort of stuff. It's like they can have it, and that you can come up with the ideas instead. Because, you know, I think that's brilliant. And I think but that goes with everything. So bringing it back to fitness, someone who wants to get fitter, stronger, healthier, all of that. And I know James, I don't know so much about you, Sean, but I know James offers like so many things within his gym, you know, and there's like strongman stuff and all of that as well. And, you know, and then there's spinning and there's like classes and all of this, and people can slot in where they want to slot in. And it's not like all about the one thing. However, the culture is all about everyone gets better.
That's it. Yeah.
It's interesting because I've just done a planning for a team meeting myself for the guys, and almost word for word what you said. I'm trying to create like freedom, but within a framework. You know, you want the people to have like freedom and to do what they're best at and what they love, but there's going to be some kind of framework there, because it has to be able to be kind of repeatable and taught to others and all the rest of it. You can't just have everybody 100% free doing whatever they want all the time, because you need some kind of structure. You need to kind of know why it's working. It's like a bit, I suppose, we talk about, you know, with nutrition or with training. If with training you're doing a little bit of everything, it's very hard to pinpoint what's actually doing the good. Or if you're getting injured, well, what's injuring me? I'm doing 50 exercises. And whereas if you're doing it, if you're kind of almost like, I suppose, if you took like an elimination diet principle of, well, let's take everything out and let's add things in gradually and see what's doing good and what's not doing so good. Pete, you want to say something again?
No, I'm just agreeing with everything you're saying, because it's like,
yeah, but from that point of view, that's so at the moment I was going to ask you, Sean, so in terms of because I don't see you on social media. Obviously, social media is not reality. It's kind of, you know, it's what we're shown, and it's a curated kind of you know, highlight reel, I suppose, or we're shown what people want to show us. But you don't seem to be at the gym as much or involved in the gym as much. And you've just kind of mentioned that you're getting a little bit of you know, shop floor fatigue, or I can't remember the phrase you said. So is that more now you're becoming more the business owner of that business, and you've got all the right people in place to kind of run things, and you're very limited in your input there at the moment?
Yeah, that's right. And essentially that's come from, and there's a thing I read, and I've done a little brief on this as well. Johnny Ives is the guy that designed the Apple phone, right? And he has a thing called order and chaos. So in every bit of chaos is some order, and every bit of order is some chaos. But there has to be order before you're allowed to present chaos. So with all my staff, I say the order is the framework, which you just mentioned. The chaos is your little sprinkle of stuff you want to do to make it better. But you have to understand the order first. And that's the way I kind of run it. So I've stepped away from certain aspects of the business, but I've written 12 frameworks on how the business operates, passed it to my staff. So there's a programming coach. He writes the program, but here is the order. What chaos can you put into that to make it better than what I've envisaged? So every aspect of the business has a framework, and then it has that sprinkling. And Johnny Ives eloquently said this: from chaos, money is made. Because if you let somebody develop something with your framework, but their chaotic, frenetic ideas that are sometimes often brilliant, the business is going to generate more income. They will get more money because they're a staff member at your gym. And that's the way I've kind of run it for the last few years, to make sure they can create some chaos.
And that's what will make you unique from every other place. Because people try to strive to be unique, and then they just become weird. Or they do the same as everyone else, right? But all it's like in training, isn't it, as well? There's like the odd little sprinkling of a little bit of secret sauce. But if you do use too much of that, you get injured and you fall off and all of that sort of stuff. Whereas
Squats
if you just
on a Bosu ball.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
I think from a training point of view, that's kind of what you've described. You know, like Instagram. Most people, when they post on Instagram, they post the chaotic sprinkle, don't they, on top? And they don't post the order, which just about anybody who is anybody follows the fundamentals and the basics, and they do them, and then maybe a little bit on the end is the weird stuff that looks, but that's the stuff that looks great for Instagram because people scroll and that's what jumps out at them, and they think, oh, to get results, I've got to do this wacky, exercise with, bands and chains and standing on a Swiss board and all the rest of it. And that was just like the bit of fun that the person sprinkled on a lot of the time. But the majority of the time, it's the basics, the unsexy stuff.
Have you ever seen? So there's two things here. The one Jeff Sokol did, when he's got a band on the wall and he does. Have you seen that? It's hilarious. He did this thing and he was like picked up a little bell and he was like this and everything just falls apart and he's just like, what am I doing? It was hilarious. But also, the last video I saw of Liver King, he was doing something similar, but like seriously, he had a barbell, like shitloads of bands all over it, and someone was like, "Why don't you just put another plate on the bar?"
But that's the thing, you see, that's the thing that we're talking about, though, isn't it? And that's the thing that people stop and watch, and that's what gets millions of views and probably earns him loads in ad revenue and whatnot. So that's interesting. So in terms of, you mentioned it, and this is a podcast, about you as well as the businesses and things. But you mentioned the powerlifting that I know. You could, like you said, world champion powerlifter. When did you start powerlifting? In the military, or when you came out of the military, or?
It was in the military. So I remember sat there. I did my accreditation, or not the accreditation. You do some things with the UKSCA where you go to understand what they want from an accreditation perspective. And in my head, I'll go and do that easy course. As you think, when you're in the military, everything's easy. Went and did it and realized I knew nothing about weightlifting or powerlifting or speed and plies and agility, just a little bit. And I thought, well, how am I going to learn? So I got into the sport of powerlifting because probably genetically, I'm pretty strong anyway. So it was kind of an easy slide. And for Olympic lifting, I didn't have the mobility for it. So I thought, I'm going to go into powerlifting, and that was my only reason. But I got really good at it. I could, for some reason, I could pick weights up, put them down, which is all powerlifting is essentially. And when I trained, I got really, really good at it. And eventually I went to the World Deadlift Champs, I think 2009, and I won it. And I won lifter of the tournament as well, because my body weight was 66 kilos and I pulled 242 and a half at 66 kilo body weight.
So I was going to say, I know you were very I knew that you were very light, certainly sub 70 kilos. I was going to say, I knew that you were, so
I'm 78 now, though. 78 kilos now. That was a long time ago.
And do you still train for powerlifting, or do you still? I mean, you said that you're a bit fatigued, shop floor stuff, but do you train at your gym, or do you train somewhere else, or what's training like for you now?
I train at my gym, so I go twice a week and do strength. And then when I was in the military, you have to run everywhere anyway because you're a PTI, but I stopped running for 10 years and I've got back into running just for health, not to do anything other than health. And over the last kind of 2 years, I can now at 50 when I can go outside and do a 10K and not even think about it. Whereas when I was powerlifting, that was non-existent, didn't do any running. And now I've realized about health and longevity, cardiovascular fitness is one of the pinnacles, right? It's up there with strength, in my opinion. So strength, as long as I stay relatively strong and keep fit and don't get injured, that is my training goal. It's nothing to do with competing. I've done a couple of high roxes, but who hasn't, but they were just there.
I got to mention,
We have to mention them. I think we're not sponsored by High Rocks, but it
should
mentioned like it should be. I think everyone, it gets mentioned once an episode.
Oh yeah,
it's everywhere, isn't it? As you know.
I wish I hadn't mentioned it. But the only reason I've done them, so we train people at my gym if they want to do it, and then if somebody gets injured or gets ill, I'll jump in. That's why I do them. So I'm not like, the High Rocks guy. No. Saying we've got these games coming up. If somebody gets injured, I still train with some of the members. I'll jump in and do the set with them. It's not like I'm going to win anything or trying to win anything.
Yeah,
that's a cracking incentive to get your coaching right, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
If someone gets injured because of you,
don't get injured.
Yeah, he'll be like, oh shit. Go do another.
Yeah, I must say they don't get injured in the gym. They get injured when they go skiing or doing something.
Yeah.
Or like my guys going for like in the mid 50s, 60s, going for a tennis shot that I had no right getting, but they wanted to win the point. It's like, really? It's not Wimbledon,
And then I think a number of years ago, you said you've recently, it's only in the last few months, you've opened the Balance Wellness Club. Which looks absolutely beautiful, by the way. I mean, I follow it on Instagram, and I've showed a number of members and told people that that we were going to have you on, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So, but you said you've been doing the kind of some of the contrast therapy, and I know I used to see you doing a lot of the swimming down in the sea in Portsmouth, in all times of year in freezing conditions. So you've been involved in that for the last, I think you said maybe 3 years yourself. And then it's only recently that you've opened the wellness club. But how did you get in? Because I know there's a lot around as well, men's groups that you take in the water, and mental health and all that kind of things. There's so much tied in. But so where did that start, and how did that start?
So there's a couple of things. So 3 years ago, I went and did some cold water stuff, and it was horrific. It was freezing. But then I was getting this feeling afterwards, and it just dawned on me. I was like, this feels really good. And anecdotally, I can say how good I felt. So I'm going to ask some of the members of the gym, do you want to come with me? And some of them started coming, and they all kept saying to me how good they felt from a community perspective, the coffee afterwards and the cold water. So then that was 3 years ago. But what I noticed was, even though I felt good sometimes, it wasn't all the time. And actually what was going on was, I wasn't a heavy drinker, but I would have a drink with everybody. I stopped drinking 2.5 years ago as well. So no alcohol for 2.5 years. And with the cold water and not drinking, after about 9 months, I was like, I feel really good. It must be both. Don't know. And then 2 years ago, my missus bought me a contrast therapy session in Newquay outside with a cold plunge and a sauna. And if you haven't done it before, or if you're on the fence, honestly, it absolutely changed my life. And what I mean by that is when I did the session, I could not believe the difference in my body and everything and how I felt. And that's when I went, I have to do more of this, but there isn't anywhere to do it. But alongside all of this, giving up drinking and looking after myself and the men's groups, I started to discover that fitness and health isn't about the gym. And I own a gym. So you can go to the gym 3 times a week. It's great. But there's 3 hours out of your week. But what are you doing outside of that? And a lot of PTs, well, it's all about the food and the nutrition outside. And I get that. But it's sometimes not. It's about what place your head's in. If your head's in a good place, you'll make the right choices. If it's not, you won't. So how do you get people to make the right choices? And I was saying, I could turn around and say, oh, it's cold water and saunas. Well, actually, it is that, but it's meeting in the group. So you'll do the cold water and you go through an arduous thing together. You bond as a group of guys or a group of girls. And that's what's going to help you along your fitness journey, being alongside a group of people that make you feel better because of the group you're in. You know, if you get a good wolf, put it with a load of bad wolves, it turns bad. And conversely, if you put a bad wolf with good wolves, it turns good. So I started to cotton on to that and go, right, I need to get more people to do the contrast stuff in the groups and have coffee. And then this was 2 years ago. I decided to do some breath work, and I know that's all trendy now. Everybody's talking about it. But I'm in the military. If you'd have said to me anything about breath work and I was a PTI, I'd have said, get out. What are you talking about? But I give it a go. And again, another thing that just absolutely blew my mind on what it did for me personally. So I've took guys who I know in my gym on the similar journey to what I've had so they can make a decision for themselves. And then because of that, I opened Balance Wellness Club, which is about contrast therapy, but the events we're doing outside of that are breath work. And we're going to be doing some bigger events this year with the guys and girls that come in and want to join in that side of, you can call it mental health. Some people do, or just feeling good, just feeling better about themselves.
That's great, because we had do you know Pom Tut? Do you know Pom Tut at all?
I don't know.
He's from he was a professional rugby league player from Telford, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, a big strong guy, and I visited his gym up in Telford, and he's really into the breathwork stuff now, and has been for, again, like you say, it's very of the moment. Like there's a few things we've mentioned already, like high rocks we mentioned,
Yeah.
cold water therapy or contrast therapy, breath work. What was the other thing that you said you were doing for a while ago? But there's a few things, that are kind of,
Yeah.
and you get these things, don't you, that kind of flash up and suddenly everyone's doing them and then they kind of go away. But there's certain things that kind of stick around and that are kind of, they're really valuable and they're really effective. And yes, they get kind of in the media. You get all the people from, I don't know, The Only Way is Essex and Made in Chelsea doing it, and it becomes like a bit of a buzz. But there's some stuff that's got some real long-term, long-lasting, and I think like the cold and saunas and things.
Yeah.
It's been around for hundreds of years, isn't it? Thousands of years, probably. We've got a member at the gym called Jana who's from Finland, and she's got a proper Finnish sauna in her garden, log burning sauna, and she's got like an ice tub next to it as well. And she does that all the time. And we've got quite a few of the members have got their own kind of ice pods or whatever at home now. But I think what you said, tying into what Pete talks a lot about, and what we talk about on the podcast a lot, is that community aspect, that community element. That yes, you can have a Lumi ice pod or whatever in your garden, but it's actually doing it in a group, and it's the coffee afterwards, isn't it? It's the sitting and having a chat and actually opening up with each other. And I mean,
in my experience, it goes beyond that as well. To friendships are made through that as well.
Yeah.
Like you say, you go to the gym or you go to cold water therapy or out walking with a group or whatever it is, but it's only for a couple of hours, 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week. So the rest of the time, if you're in your own head and everything, but it's the connect. And like you said, you make connections with people who want to improve, are looking for something, and then they find something, and then you can go off and find other things together as well. So it creates that kind of, instead of joining a group like that for an hour a week, or going to the gym on your own for an hour, 3 hours, and then going back to your friends in the pub who are all eating pasties and pizzas and, drinks down in 10 pints and all that sort of stuff. It's like, it kind of transitions you from one to the other, doesn't it? And then you surround yourself with people who are actually looking for something better, I think.
That's it. Yeah.
I was going to mention as well, the other thing that was in my head that's very of the moment and very trendy now, but you mentioned doing it 2.5 years ago, is the giving up alcohol and the stopping drinking. Because, that's got really, there was like the no beer for a year or year no beer, it was called. But now lots of people, there's a lot of this sobriety. It's become very popular, and what did you? I don't think it's a bad thing that it's become popular, because I mean, my dad, for example, was an alcoholic for all his life, pretty much till he died at 70. And I think we talked about this with Helen. I think it was on that podcast where alcohol is just so accepted as part of our society, and drinking to excess is not just normalized; it's kind of revered. It's kind of seen as a badge of honor, being able to drink a lot. So what was it that made you stop? Did you notice some things about yourself that you wanted to to stop? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I know it's quite a personal question, but
Yeah, I've actually spoke about this to a couple of people actually, and what happens is I'm going to go back to the military days. You drink all the time in the military. That's what we did, and 50% of my role as a PTI was drinking. The other 50% was sport, exercise, and health. But they had to link up because if you had a rugby team that you took out, you'd go and play rugby, and then you drink. So what happened to me from a drinking perspective, even though it was 2.5 years ago, I reflected back on the years in my life, whereas I was a perceived version of what people thought I should be. So for me, it was all a bit of an act, right? Everything I did was all a bit of an act. And when I realized that, I kind of thought, why are you like this? And why at my age at 51 now, only 3 years ago, did I start to realize that things weren't right in my head or in my place? So I thought, if I just give up alcohol, I'll see what happens. So within 9 months of giving up alcohol, I still couldn't go out for a drink with other people because they just irritated the shit out of me. Because I was a perceived version of who I thought I was. Once I started to get with the breath work and the contrast therapy and the non-alcohol, 4 months after that, or 5 months, so we're talking 14 months down the line, I can actually go out with people who were drinking and I wasn't, and really enjoy myself because I wasn't pretending or giving them the perceived version of Sean. I was actual Sean. This is me. And because of this reflection on my life and how things should be, the decision to give up alcohol, do the contrast therapy, and meet the right people has been one of the best decisions I've ever made, because I'm now actually, even though it's not too late, I'm actually the person who I always should have been. I actually always, and it's really bizarre how for 20 years I probably wasn't. Kind of bizarre.
I think
I love that, because that's pretty. Is it David Bowie who said something like that? You spend your whole life becoming the person who you should have been in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I'm it's funny, like the question I was going to have was, do you still go out? Because this year, and I'm what am I, 48 now? I think it's an age thing as well, because like alcohol starts to affect you more as you get a bit older, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So, yeah. But I started thinking about it, and I've been like cutting right back. Not like I drank loads and loads and loads, but like I've been cutting right back. But I enjoy going to the pub. I like it. I like sitting in a pub. I like the atmosphere of a pub, and I like sitting there and just chatting to random people and stuff like that. It's really like, we've got loads of great pubs in Bath and what have you. It's fantastic. But I started like just once a week drinking beer in there, and then if we go any other times, I've started drinking like the non-alcoholic stuff, like the Erding is my favorite one, except for I drank the pub out of it because they only had two. So. Like, you know what I mean, though? It's like one of those things. It's starting to think, and the price of it's gone up because it's really popular now. It used to be like really cheap, and now all of a sudden, a bottle of non-alcoholic beer costs more than a pint, which is an alcoholic pint. We discovered that the other day, and I wasn't very happy about that. But I enjoy that environment, but it's the environment, not the drinking. So you said you go out again.
Yeah.
Does that, because I never used to go and drink. I used to, when I was younger, drink and get drunk. Then it used to be like, I'll just go to the pub and have a couple of beers, so not get drunk, but I'd still feel sluggish the next day. And I'm not giving up totally. I'm just like, right, I'm playing around with it to see if there's a happy medium for me. But like I say, I like that environment. So how do you? And you've kind of alluded to it, how you coped with it and left it for a while, but. I mean, do you still like going out and all of that, or because I don't go out? I just, like I say, I'll just like the environment of a pub for an hour or so.
You know why I think I used to drink when I went out? If I'm honest with you, is because I was anxious. About being that perceived version or meeting people and not being able to talk. Even though I'm gob on a stick, right? I can talk. I can talk to anybody. But then, I was out our Christmas do for the gym, and we went out. It's probably 70 or 80 people there. I had a great night. A really, really good night. No alcohol. Didn't feel anxious. No. Everything just felt as it should have felt years ago. Because I guarantee all of us went out for a drink. And the reason we drank, there was any women around or mates, we could get a bit of confidence and have a bit of a laugh. I didn't need that. That night, I was the gym owner in a room full of people who were at my gym. I had to do an awards ceremony and get up and give awards out and all of this type of stuff. I felt absolutely amazing. The best thing, I got in my car and drove home. Didn't spend 25 quid in a taxi trying to get there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No alcohol. I was drinking some of the non-alcoholics because some of them taste quite nice now. But yeah, the only reason I drank was I was anxious about how I was going to be when I was there. Now I no longer am anxious about anything, nothing. And I believe that's because of everything I've done over the last 3 years to date.
You've just reminded me of something there, because if I ever went out, like, like a few mates in Bath, and like we might meet them in the pub or something like that, and I'd have like 3 or 4 pints when I was with my mate. If I go with Sean, might have 2, but if I'm with like a couple of friends, might have 3 or 4. And then I'd come home and like I'd be saying to Sean, "I've got 4 pints of love inside of me now. I love you. I bloody love you." And, you know what I mean?
There you go.
Saying it every 5 seconds. It's like you've got 4 pints of love in you, haven't you? I was like, yeah.
No, that's like we had our Christmas do as well, and I didn't have anything to drink. And most of the time, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, I'll drive if I go out. I very rarely drink anything, and if I do, it might be one, But yeah, Christmas do. I drove, did it again, had the member of the year kind of thing we had to do. And then you see people around you getting gradually more drunk throughout the evening, keep coming up saying, "Are you not drinking? Are you not drinking? Do you never drink?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine. I'm driving. I'm going to train in the morning." And, so I think that it's, like you say, it's having the confidence really the self-confidence and knowing who you are and being confident in who you are to say, "No, I'm not having a drink." It's the last thing we said this, I think, on the podcast. It's the last kind of vice, if you like, that's socially acceptable for people to try and push onto you. Smoking, no longer really. Drugs, not in any of the circles I move in. Do you know what I mean? And but it's that alcohol is that last vice, and it's because of the culture and the lady I mentioned, Jana from Finland, said it's an English kind of thing, where it's part of the culture, drinking and drinking to excess. So yeah, because I think at the club, at the Balance Wellness Club, is there like a coffee? There's like a coffee shop, coffee area at the front, isn't there, that I saw as well?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the idea of the branding behind balance, and we say it, life's about balance. So branding for me isn't the picture on the wall. It's about what it means. And I firmly believe that's what life is about. And I'm not saying when people say balance, I mean, oh, that means I can have 5 pints instead of 10. It's not what I mean. It's a balanced lifestyle throughout. And when you look at physiologically, homeostasis, the body should be in balance. So balance means 2 things: have a cake, have a coffee, have a sauna, have an ice bath, get your body to regulate. And not just from a homeostasis perspective, also self-regulation. Most adults have a problem with self-regulation. So and you see it, people go silent. They're 50 and you say something that they don't agree with, they go silent because it's a childhood trauma response, because they have no way of self-regulating because of what they've done or said in the past. And for me, that's not balance. If somebody can't self-regulate, then they've got they've got issues they need to work on. And that's why Balance has a coffee shop where we can sit and chat. We've got contrast therapy in the Balance, and everybody should be here. And the ability to talk to each other and say what you want within reason is a balanced approach.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
we've spoke about that before, the difference, like the difference or similarities between balance and harmony as well. So everything does, because if you try and balance everything, it's got to move, because everything doesn't stay still, but it's got to stay within a certain harmony with everything else, hasn't it? Otherwise you end up like that. Yeah.
And how do the 2 businesses kind of work together? I know they're I think, if I'm understanding, they're separate businesses and they're in separate locations.
Yeah.
But you've obviously got Sean Cole Vital Fitness, the gym, and then you've got the Balance Wellness Club. Do you find that people from the gym use the wellness club and vice versa, or do you have a separate kind of market for both, or how do they play off each other and work together?
So I do have a lot of the members use it, and I think it's because they've done the contrast therapy. But what we've set up within Balance, and this is good for so like if you had one in your area, for example, and it was a Balance, we've approached all independent local businesses that are fitness related, and it costs X amount of money to use Balance. But if you want, you can tell your members, because you're an independent locally owned gym, for instance, you will get a major discount on the use at Balance, but not if you're a commercial setting. If you're an independent local, we will help you out. And I've also done that with my gym. They get a massive discount on being able to use it, but I've also done it with all other gyms and local fitness providers around the area, because life's about balance.
Yeah.
But it's to try and say to the guys, it doesn't cost you any money, but your members will get a 25% discount, for instance, on a subscription at the only contrast therapy centre in Portsmouth, by a way of giving back. And my members, yeah, you're right, a lot of them do use it.
Yeah, and I think you've also got have you got the football team, local football team coming in and stuff I've seen as well, and different sports clubs and things like that, maybe?
Yeah, we've got Portsmouth. One of my business partners, Luke, he just rang them up. He said, look, we've got this contrast therapy thing, so the Pompey first team. And a lot of them, they're young guys. When they come in, they look, to me, they're in tracksuits. They don't look any different, to a kid that's walking down the street. But they're professional athletes. And a lot of them live in the local area, because where Balance is situated, there's quite an affluent area around there in different places. And they've got the ice tubs in the ground, but the ground's in the town centre. So we've arranged a deal that the players can come in and use it. There was 5 of them in just when I left to come and do this podcast, actually, the team captain and that, to work on their recovery. They don't necessarily use it for contrast therapy. It's more the ice plunges. You know what I mean? They want to take the inflammation down, because they're playing. I think they've got 2 games this week. So it's a game, a couple of days rest, another game. But what they do like is the coffee shop. They come in, because we lock the doors. They'll shut the doors, make them coffees, and they can just sit and chill out, not in their house and not at the football ground. And it's a nice area to sit in as well. It looks really smart. So the players love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you have, like, I think you've got, like, say, I don't know if it's 4, but I've got in my mind, I can see, are the ice baths or the tubs, are they set at different temperatures? So that you can, so you've got, like, progressively getting colder, I presume, from,
Yeah. We put them in, and I was even discussing today that most people don't know anything about cold plunging, right? So you put them in. I'll ask you a question. So they've got 2, 4, 6, 8 degrees. Blokes come in. Where do they all try to head towards?
They want to jump straight in the 2, don't they? Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Only
It's
2.
just ego.
Yeah.
I've got to get in the 2. Have you ever done it before? No. Okay. I've read on Instagram that you got to do 8 minutes at 8 degrees. Oh my God. Right. Listen. And this guy did it. There's one guy come in and did that 3 times. So 24 minutes in a 50-minute session in cold. I was, okay. So what we're trying to do now is make them understand that stop watching influencers on Instagram telling you that you should do X amount of minutes and X amount of degrees. And in reality, you don't need to do that long in the cold plunge, and you don't need to go on the 2. And you don't need to sit in the sauna until you feel like a jacket spud. Do you know what I mean? Get out a little bit before that. And it's trying to talk to people about the balanced approach. But the plunges are set at different temperatures. But we talked today about moving them all just to 6. So they're all at the same temp. So they stop
having that competitive element as well. Because if you get, like you say, if you get 5 or 6 professional footballers in their late teens, early 20s, they're going to get in the 2. Right, how long have you done? Right, I've done 4 minutes. Right, I'm going to do 5 minutes. And it just becomes that kind of. Because we had a couple of weeks back, we had Nick Rainbird on, who had just come back from Poland doing his Wim Hof method kind of instructor training out in Poland. So we talked about cold water, quite a lot. And he was saying there is that, and you see it all the time, the first time people have done it, it's almost like, how cold can you go and how long can you be in there? And it's just, it's ridiculous, but
I've got a suggestion. I've got 2 suggestions, actually. So the first suggestion is make them all 6, but label them 8 down to 2.
Yeah.
No one will ever know. No one will ever, they'll go in 2 and go, nails me. And it's like, yeah, it's the same. Or Clement Freud. Do you know Clement Freud?
All right.
Yeah. He used to own restaurants and stuff in the 60s, didn't he? And he said they'd have the wine list, and you'd get all these like business type people coming in and getting hammered and ordering the most expensive wine on the menu, right? Because they had loads of money, and they were just pissed. So he was like, there was these really nice, expensive bottles of wine that these people were drinking. So what he did was he took the cheapest bottle of wine and made it the most expensive. So anybody who knew what they were talking about would look at it and go, I don't want that one. I want that one. But all these other idiots were spending a load of money on a cheap bottle of wine, and they didn't even notice, right? So what you could do in that case is switch them round and make 8 the 2 and 2 the 8, so the people are going to get in the 8 anyway.
Well, you know what's interesting about what you said there. So, as you can imagine, when we're busy, we've got a 2-4-6-8. The 2-degree plunge, because of body heat and people going in and out, turns into a 4-degree plunge after a period of time. I went in the other day and there was 2 4-degree plunges, and I said to the guys, I said, "This is the same temperature now as that one there." "Is it?" "I'm getting in the 2." "No, I've just said it's the same temperature." It's exactly the same. You don't. It says 4 on. Look at the panel. Yeah, I'm going to get the 2, mate.
You know, when you try to explain, not when you try to, I mean, I know a little bit about it, but you try to explain a bit of human psychology and all that, and people will be like, yeah, that's not me. That's a load of shit. You've just proved it.
Yeah. Dear me. Right, I tell you what, guys, we are going to have to wrap up there, or start to wrap up there, because Sean's going to do the school run in a minute where we're recording, which is great. So we did have a kind of a cut off that we're going to kind of keep to. It's in a couple of minutes' time. I do have a question though, Sean. I kind of mentioned it to begin with. So, friend of the show, Mr. Paul Field, who's a former Navy guy himself, he asked, because he was in the Navy, and he said, and I said, "Oh, we've got Sean Cole coming on." And I showed him a picture, and straight away he said, "Oh, he was a petty officer," because he saw your picture. And then he said, "Ask him what his nickname was in the Navy." He said, "Because no one's called what their name is in the Navy." So, and it's to do with your surname, I presume, or because because he said his name is Field, so he was called Gracie, because like Gracie Field was like was it Shinactress or something? But so, what was your nickname in the Navy, if you can say?
So I only had a nickname for my first ship because I was 17, and there was 2 people called Sean, and he was older than me, so he was allowed to keep Sean. So I was called Lloyd, right? Lloyd Cole and the Commotions.
Okay.
I was like, fucking. There's Smokey, there's Nat King Cole, there's all really cool names, but I was called Lloyd. And it got to a point on the ship after about 18 months, I was introducing myself as Lloyd. Somebody say, "Who are you?" "I'm Lloyd." "I'm not Lloyd. I'm not Lloyd." But you end up introducing yourself when you're out in the pub. You know, when I became 18, had been on the ship a little bit longer. "What's your name?" "Lloyd." "It's not my real name." No. So when I took my second ship, it all changed, and I was called Sean.
Excellent.
No, that's I'd call you Old King Cool now, because you're a merry old soul, you see.
There you go. That's cool though. Not Lloyd's not a cool name.
We apologize to anybody called Lloyd who's listening. By
yeah. Sorry.
Brilliant. So, Sean, just quickly before you go, if people want to follow you, find out more, I mean, I'm going to have to get myself down to Portsmouth at some stage and come and visit you at the Wellness Club as well. What's the best thing for people to follow? I presume you've got a different Instagram and stuff for the gym and for the Wellness Club. Is that right? What's the best way for people to have a look?
So we've got SC Vital Fitness as the gym. If you want to know how to set up a gym, I'd go on that. Fitness Business Profits is the company I work for, which are a great mentoring company. Balance Wellness Club is mine. And then Sean Cole Coaching is my own individual Instagram. But it's mainly pictures of my kids and me pissing about, if I'm honest.
Excellent. Brilliant. I'll tell you what, Sean, we will let you go and then we'll wrap up once you've gone, because I know you need to do the school run and I don't want you to be late. Okay. But thank you so much, Sean, and we'll keep in touch and maybe we'll speak again down the line. But it was really, really good to speak to you. And like I say, I definitely would love to come, because the Balance Wellness Club looks absolutely beautiful. And it would be great to come and have a look. But yeah, thank you so much, Sean. Cheers, mate.
Brilliant, guys. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Brilliant. Cheers, Sean. Thank you. Bye-bye. Cool, excellent. So yeah, we let Sean go there, obviously, like we said, because he's doing the school run. We needed to do that. We don't want him to be late. We don't want to be responsible for that. But thank you so much for listening, for watching. Yeah, that was good, Pete, wasn't it? Especially having talked to Nick as well a few weeks back.
Yeah, I just thought it was hilarious when Sean said, I wanted to say this too, when he said it. I pissed myself laughing when he said it. He was like, "Yeah, I tried that cold plunge thing, so I went down to wherever it was, and I got in." He goes, "It was bloody freezing." It's like, that's the idea.
Yeah, no, that was funny. Deary me. Right, but thank you everybody for watching and listening. Like it is the 7th of Feb. We've got some next week. For episode 233, we're going to be joined by Chloe Brennan, who is the world and European strongwoman champion for the under 73 kilos class. She is really great fun on her Instagram, incredibly strong. She does commentary as well on TV for the strongman stuff. She's a real personality and really, really bubbly, and we're looking forward to speaking to her next week. So it's Chloe Brennan next week for episode 233. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to do so, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts. That's what I do keep seeing people on other podcasts saying leave a review on Spotify, but I'm not sure that you must be able to, because these are big podcasts that say leave a review on Spotify. But yeah, if you can leave a review on Spotify, leave us a review on there. But the one that we're kind of really keeping an eye on is obviously the Apple Podcasts. And just to go back to what I said at the start, if you are Jenny C 1968 and you wrote that review that I read out at the start, please do message us, comment on something, or send us a private message to let us know your size, your color that you want, if you want a t-shirt, a hoodie, or a sweater, and where we send it to, and I will do that for you. So until next week, thank you very much. We are in February, so we're already 1/12 of the year through 2025. We're going to have loads more fantastic guests coming up for you, starting with Chloe Brennan next week. So until then, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.